coming with this is kind of like a triple barrel punch between an economy crash and the famine, and then you've also got the attacks against big mouths on the internet, which they're going to call hate groups and terrorists. All this is going to happen within the same time frames, folks. We've also got some action in July. I keep saying that. I've been warning about July for years. Even back in 2003, I posted probably one of my first codes was on Congress being blown up in July. It's at hiddencodes.com, one of the very first codes I ever posted. And it still stands to today, because they have plans to blow up D.C. And interestingly enough, someone had sent me a link to WorldNet Daily's article on Northcom and NORAD moving out of Cheyenne Mountain and going over to Peterson Air Force Base. And so I thought that was interesting. I've spent some time in Colorado Springs. I saturated Cheyenne Mountain with Oregon. And Peterson Air Force Base is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Cheyenne Mountain. I mean, I stayed at a hotel that would probably be on the main road between the two. One end would be Peterson Air Force Base, and the other end Cheyenne Mountain. They're just across the road from each other, basically, maybe 2 miles, you know. So it's not that far of a trip to go from Cheyenne Mountain to Peterson Air Force Base. But you gotta wonder, why are they doing that? And it all comes down to, I always think of the Bible, and if you read in the sixth seal, I think it's the sixth seal, where the chieftains and leaders of the earth are hiding in the rocks of the caves. And they're in the rocks in the caves. They're not in underground bases. And so you gotta wonder, why aren't they in underground bases? They've spent billions of dollars over the years, every nation, building underground bases so other rich people and politicians can think they can go hide and be safe while everybody else suffers on top of the earth. So why aren't they joining themselves in an underground base? I'll tell you right now, I would not want to be in an underground base. Would not want to be in an underground base, because they're going to be nothing but food containment centers for the aliens. You get all these humans down there, and the first thing anybody does when you read these stories about politicians visiting underground bases, how much security is around, and how inhuman the security looks. Just very cold beings dressed in black or whatever, lifeless eyes, and typical descriptions of the security. It's because they're not human. They're chip-implanted clone beings, controlled. They can be controlled by their control centers or whatever. Some of them are just humans that are chip-implanted and controlled. I know Fort Bragg in North Carolina has been experimenting for years on a super soldier, integrating man and machine, chip-implanting men and trying to create the super soldier type thing. But you'll often hear from these people that the security down there is just the security everywhere with guns. And so if it was so safe down there, why would security, other than at the entrances of the space to maybe keep people out, why is there so much security inside the base? You know, if nobody has any weapons but security, people never stop to think, and you got to think it's because I think there is going to be a lot of uprisings in these underground bases, these people that have been deceived by going into them, and they're going to be used for food for the aliens. It's not safe down there, and I think the chieftains know this. I think the presidents know this, and that's why they're heading to the mountains and the caves instead, letting all their little pawns go get eaten by aliens in the underground bases. And so, yeah, just a FYI, food for thought. I don't know, I'll just throw that out there. Because the Lord's told me about these underground bases, told me that they'll become tombs. They're going to become the tombs for all these people that are in them. And eventually they're going to be destroyed. They're going to be destroyed by the earth shaking and the flooding and all kinds of disasters that are going to be afflicted on the inside of the earth as well as the outside. And they're just going to become the tombs for these people. So if you don't die by being somebody's food on a dinner plate, you're just going to die from a flooding or a natural or earthquake or some kind of disaster, inner-earth disaster. There's no hiding from the Lord, folks. And His anger, His righteous anger, is coming on this whole world very shortly. Because when you look ahead at the events that are coming, these things are happening shortly before the Great Tribulation period will start. And you know, once the Great Tribulation starts, it goes from Satan's wrath to the Lord's wrath. I mean, right now we're kind of in a Satan's wrath mode, where Satan's taking his wrath out on the earth. He's creating this famine. He wants to destroy people, wants to kill people. And this famine is going to be massive, be worldwide. Right now, people are yelling about rising prices. Wait till there's no food at all. Wait till people are dying in the streets because they're so hungry. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen here in America. It's going to happen in every country in the world. This massive famine that's coming. And this is typical of start from the beginning to the middle of the tribulation period. So that kind of gives you a timeline of where we're at. We're not in the middle yet, but we're getting there. We're approaching towards the middle part of the tribulation period. People ask me all the time, how will we know when we're in it? I know the churches teach one thing, and so everybody gets into their heads that, everything's going to happen a certain timeline, and we're going to know exactly when we're in the tribulation period. And that's not the case, folks. I've always said no one's going to know when they're in it. People aren't going to know. They're not going to realize we're in it. It's not going to happen the way people expect. And the reason I say that is because the Lord told me. And so that's when I had to throw out my preconditioned ideas and say, okay, throw out these timelines that have been ingrained in my head since I was 8 years old, throw out everything I've ever learned, and just reteach me. And he doesn't tell me times, because the Lord doesn't live in linear time. What he does tell me is events to watch for, things to watch for. And so that's what I watch for. The famine's the biggest indicator, folks. The famine will happen. The war against the saints happens shortly after. When you see the war against the saints, when you see martial law in America and Christians and big mouths disappearing off the internet, just disappearing out of society in general, you may or may not realize, you may or not know we're in martial law. They may tell you, they may not. They may just start picking people up and putting them on a train. The media's not talking. There's a big, huge media blackout going on. And the internet, people just start, their websites are going down, and no one knows what's going on. Where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so? They could have been picked up by the government already. You know? A lot of this can happen before people even realize what's going on, is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be this huge production in America where all of a sudden martial law announcements are everywhere, and then you'll see foreign troops there. This stuff can happen in the middle of the night just using SWAT troops. They've been training German soldiers in Texas for years. They dress them up as SWAT people, as black uniforms, and training Russian and German soldiers how to conduct martial law here for years. And so, very interesting. So we've got the famine coming. I've been talking about that. We've got them getting ready to move into D.C. over to Cheyenne Mountain. And all this, they act like they're indecisive. They don't know if they're going to do it, but they're going to do it. They're going to do it. So D.C. is going to be relocated. The president, the White House, is going to be relocated to Cheyenne. Congress is going to go to hell. Congress is going to be nuked to hell. Nobody wants Congress around, even the president, because he's a dictator. He doesn't want the constraints of Congress on his back. And so they're going to blow up Congress. They're going to blow it up in July. I've seen that for years. And what happens to all the congressmen and stuff? Well, you know what they're going to do? They're going to keep their word and shuffle all these people off to a nice underground base. I wouldn't doubt it. But they're going to their deaths, what they're going to do. These underground bases are nothing but death tombs. And so that's what they're going to do. So we got D.C. going up in July. If the price of oil... It could be July this year or next year, folks. I don't know. Just keep your eyes open. 2008, 2009. 2009 is usually the one that's dominant about everything, and so it's kind of surprising. If we actually do start seeing this stuff in 2008, it just won't surprise us. Watch the famine. Watch the economy crashing. If oil goes up $4, already, even at $3.50, a lot of truckers are going out of business. They can't stay in business, can't afford to be in business. Price of diesel is too high. I always said that it would just happen overnight where stores would just close their doors because... they don't have anything to put on them. The trucks aren't delivering the goods. So watch that one. That would probably go hand in hand with an economy crash, obviously. If there's famine, the truckers are on strike, people are out of business, out of work, all leading into martial law. And martial law is coming to America. It's not when, it's if. It's not if, it's when. September is a very dominant month for martial law. Now, is that this year or next year? I don't know. But September is a dominant month. Along with the coming famine, you're going to see plagues hitting. AIDS is going to be very dominant, and we're going to see a resurgence of leprosy. That's going to be hitting. I believe that's a disease, a plague that's going to be inflicted on the aliens because of the orgone. Their reaction to it. You know, just as they're fighting against us, we're fighting back. You know, we're not sitting on our butts doing nothing. They're trying to kill humans, we're trying to kill them. And so it's a war, folks, and that's why they're going to try to come after this bride and take down the church, because we're so effective against them. One of the articles I'd seen earlier in the week, because I warned about them taking my websites down off the internet,